Hello, this is Django. Welcome back, and hopefully someone finds this interesting. This is a new little gun video I was gonna do. Um, what gun we have today is a Harrington and Richardson Vest Pocket 25. Very old gun, a very nice looking gun. From what I can tell, they made them from maybe the 1909, 1910-ish area, if I'm not mistaken, and they possibly ended it around 1916, but from what I've read, they were available in the catalogs for H&R until about 1918. The last serial number they produced was 16,630, and mine is a 8,048. So it is a midway through that production type of gun. Very beautiful gun. Plastic grips. I don't know if it would be a Gutta Percha or a Bakelite or just a standard plastic. Get closer to the camera. It's got the Harrington and Richardson Arms Company logo, and it says H&R self-loading caliber 25. There's your safety serial number, your patents, and I'm sorry for my camera being kind of glary right now. Harrington and Richardson Arms Company, Worcester, Massachusetts, and the patent numbers were August 20th, 1907, and then April 13th, 1909, for anyone curious about those. It holds 6 rounds in a heel release button magazine release. That's what I was trying to say. It's heel release button type, which is very odd. Only, to my knowledge, only 2 guns really use a button, at least in this time frame. It would be the Webley and Scott 32s, and then the 25s that they sold, and then the H&R 32, and then this model. And the way it works, when you would hold the gun, you can't just European, when in doubt, pinky out for this kind of model. You actually have to move it out of the palm of your hand, because when you push up, it comes out the back. So you have to make room for that. And here is the tiny little magazine. There's the catch. I do have a second magazine that actually came with the gun, but the feed lips, I could probably tweak them a bit, but they were too weak to hold more than just one bullet into the actual pistol. If you put more than one, they'd want to just right out the top, kind of almost like a Steyr Hahn. But 6 rounds of 25 auto. You can notice a grip crack right here. The grips, this is, from what I've seen, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say a defect, it's just how this gun had to be designed for the safety. It's, and it's on the Webleys, it's on the big 32s of the H&R. They all crack right here because there's just a little piece of plastic that just juts up right there, yeah. And there's your safety. For to fire it, you would cover the word safe. So if you can't see safe, it's not safe. Kind of odd. I don't find it really that bad. If we look on the top, it's got your extractor up on the top. There are no sights whatsoever. Your barrel right there. Very nice pistol. I've fired it a few times. I have not fired it recently, just because I have the one magazine that I know works, and I don't want to mess it up until I find another one. And about the sights, going back to that, I wouldn't have a problem shooting this, if I had to, like if I was to carry this for some reason, which I carry all my guns. It's like I have, the way I refer to it is I have a lazy Susan of handguns. If it's in my collection, I rotate it out. I carry guns like this. I carry my Ruger LCP, the LC9, the EC9S, and then I'll feel like rocking a PO8 Luger occasionally. If it's in the collection, it gets used. But I have only carried him one time. Very nice, very handy. He only weighs about 12.35 ounces. He's about 3 inches tall from what I'm reading. His length is about 4.4, and the barrel length is 2.1 inches. And trying to think what else there could be about him. Sorry, I just had to adjust something. If you look on the back, most handguns from this time period, they had just a little striker cup, like the FN 1906, the Colt 1908, and then you go a little forward in time to the Browning, Baby Browning. You get all the Ruby pistols. They shared that same little feature, like where the frame came up to this little circle, and you would have your firing pin and your striker captured back here. It has the same look, but this is not actually, if you look, I don't know if you can make it out because it is quite shiny, but there are little cuts all on this where the frame and because this is not a striker fire gun as most guns were back then. This is actually most pocket pistols, I should say. This is actually a hammer fired. It's a concealed hammer, and I will show that in one moment. But it's a concealed hammer, and if you pull back on it just a little bit, it's hard to do under a camera, you can see they separate out. That is beautiful machining. That is darn near smooth until you separate it out. That is almost perfect machining. I do not believe we could accomplish something easily like that. That was not a fortune to pay for nowadays. I will show disassembly of it. So you make sure it has the magazine out, your safety is on, and then you grab the trigger guard right here. It's a little hinged thing. You just gently pull just a little bit. There we are. It's spring steel. I have had an H&R 32 that had a fractured one right here. It was slightly fractured, and the recoil spring was wore out. No one told me this. It looked to be in good condition, and when I fired it, the the pressure from the cartridge, just the 32, mind you, caused this to snap right here on the 32 model, and it smacked me in the finger and left a pretty nasty bruise on me for a few weeks. So check your recoil springs, obviously, and everything else on these guns. They're very safe and reliable, but the problem is, going off on a tangent here, the H&Rs, good guns, very reliable and quality. These are some of the automatics they made were some of the most high quality I believe they did make. The problem was they were an H&R, not a Colt, not an FN, so people tended to just throw them in the tackle box or in the drawer in the attic and forget about them. So that's why you find them nowadays, and they have a funky finish, but they are quite good. Anywho, we take the magazine out, put the safety on, pop the trigger guard, and it has a little rotating bit right up under there. And if I position it just right, you can start to see it separating back here. And you push, there we go. You push like that. And just gently, while trying not to touch the trigger guard because there's a little hinge in there. You pull it off, he comes off the front. You can kind of wiggle him out. And then fight him the rest of the way off. I'm going to just do it like this, if I can get it going. I might have to be off camera for half a second. Pardon me. Ah, I have figured out the problem. Like I said, this is a hammer-fired gun, and I keep my hammer, I dry fire it when I'm done with it. So that was the problem. I did not have the hammer cocked, so I had to gently just kind of rack it back and get the hammer cocked. So when you check it for empty, make sure you do draw it all the way back to cock the little hammer, and I will pull it off. That's what the problem was, and hopefully I don't think I caused any trouble to it. I just think it was a bit stiff right there. Yes, I did. Okay. So, then we have it in all of its little pieces. If I can get them all on camera. And you're field stripped, and you're ready to go. Here is your barrel. Beautiful. We can get down in there maybe. Needs a good scrub, but it is very nice. You can actually see the rifling. I don't know if you can make it out on this camera. Not really. Just barely. Very nice, very smooth. Here's your matching serial number to the frame and the actual slide. Here's your slide. Barrel just gets dropped down in there. Gotta find that right spot for it though. There we go. And that's how it would actually fire. When it fires, the barrel stays fixed and the slide will draw back like that. Very, very tight machining. Like, you can, if you have a good example that has no rust or dents, you almost can't tell that little space is there. And now for the actual frame, here's that trigger guard. You can kind of make that out of it moving, and that, pardon me, my light on my computer went out. There we go. That interlocks with this little recess right here, right there, and that's what keeps the whole gun together. There's your trigger moving back, and you have just a standard little trigger bar connected to your sear under here, and the safety all it does is just block the trigger, if I'm not mistaken. I think since the trigger is connected to the trigger bar, the way it's designed, if this is like the Webley, the sear comes down, the trigger bar goes back, like on some of the more similar, like the Beretta 418s, and when this is up in that position, it just pushes down and forces the trigger to be disconnected. So it's not just like a block behind the trigger, it actually pushes it down. Which, I would not carry this with one in the chamber, but it would be safer than most in a way, unless the hammer hook has a very shallow cut. Here is the hammer I spoke about. And if you look on the back, along the full rails, there is what I was talking about. You have the rail, top of the rail, and then these little, almost look like crab claws right here. And those fit right back here, and they fit into this little groove, as you can see. It would match up like a puzzle piece. And if you look up underneath, there's your other matching serial number. The bottom of this uses dual recoil springs with solid guide rods, and I do not know how to take those out and change them. I will let that be up to my gunsmith. There's your firing pin in there, spring loaded. There it is, poking through right there. I believe the ejector, I could be wrong. Well, no, actually, I'm not. I haven't really looked at this and thought it through. I thought for some reason it might be the same where the firing pin, as it protrudes forward a little bit as it's being cocked, I thought maybe that would kick out the cartridge. No, it has double ejectors, which are the, which is quite clever. The double ejectors are the recoil rods, if I'm not mistaken, because when they compress, they shoot through those little holes on either side, and that's what kicks your cartridge. By the way, it kicks it straight up and onto your head. But yes, that's I actually just learned something myself. Very cool. Now to put this back together, you're gonna watch me struggle trying to get this back on here. You go to the front, line up the little rails and rail slots, and get that on there. It's a very tight fit. This has not been fired that much. As you can see, there's almost no bluing wear along the top rail right here, and it fits very smoothly and, well, snugly. That's the word I wanted. I might want to put this little pin back in just a tad bit, but slide it all the way back on, and you have to fight it over the hammer right there. So just like that. And if you can actually see them when they go into their recoil spring holders. That is perfect. So, and then you would I find it easy to take your barrel and go forward slightly before you get all the way over the hammer, and drop it down before it gets to the little catch. Like, right, might have to do it a little bit further than that. There we go. So a little bit off the rails, about that far, and then push it in, and then grab the front, fight it over the top, and we are back. Not the best way to do this. Obviously, we don't put our finger in the trigger guard or on the barrel like that with modern guns, but even on the Colt 1903 pocket hammerless, they show the way you would hold the slide back to twist the barrel out. They would show on the manual, putting your finger in the trigger guard and holding it. So very interesting. Obviously, make sure it's unloaded before you try doing it that way. You'd lose almost all your fingers probably. So you push it back till it's flush, and then hold it. Take this, bend it just a little, get it up under there. Then we and there's no last round hold open, magazine or not. It just gonna show empty. Oh, there we go. There's a good view of those. So it's open, and then you can see the recoil rods coming out. Boom. So they just come out right below the firing pin channel, like that. And that kicks it straight up in your face. And since it's cocked now, there's no magazine disconnect. I will put it into the fire position, and then she is decocked. For aiming though, since there is no sights, I would honestly just put this over whatever you wanted to shoot. Just hold it up. So if someone was right there, just boom, put that right over them. That's about the only way I see you could aim. Just use the center of it. And to put it back in, you can kind of fight it in there, but I have found it easiest to get it situated. Push up on the button, then slide it in. And always make sure that your little catch, these would get gunked up and rusted sometimes, and it's just there's an old spring in here too. Just make sure your catch is always pressed in. Probably when you gripped it, that would go in there, but make sure it's always in, because that's what holds your magazine actually in. All in all, it's a beautiful gun. I wish they still sold them or made them in some form. I would not bump it to a 380 or a what do you call it? I would not bump it to a 380 or anything bigger, just because we saw what happened with the Remington R51. It was a beautiful gun, but it was a 32 and a 380 back in the 20s. It was not meant for 9mm. So when they tried to bump it up, it just did not handle well. And I'm assuming that's what scared half the other manufacturers from ever attempting to make something that pretty again. But now that Palmetto State Armory actually owns the H&R brand, and I know it's not the most popular caliber anymore, 25, but I would love for them to make a reintroduction to the market with these, and maybe these, if they could tweak them a bit, maybe these could be in 22 LR and 25, and if they so chose, I would appreciate a 32 in the bigger version. Obviously, there needs to be a more pronounced safety with both of them, just so they are drop safe. But if they chose to make them in a modern way, and if anyone happens to see this video who works with Palmetto, please give us the option, for God's sake, between polymer and steel frame. I like both, but something about just a steel frame, anything, is just nice occasionally. It could be aluminum, it could be metal, just any, not zinc, not the Zamac. The only boys out there doing good with that is High Point. But no, if we could get a modern interpretation of these, I would absolutely lose my collective shits about it, and I would probably buy 6 or 7 a piece, just to own them, shoot them, and have 1 or 2 that I just keep for a rainy day. And for a last little size comparison, here is a Kershaw California Legal Switchblade, and that is, quite frankly, that is tiny. Not quite as tiny as the Baby Browning or the Bayard 32, which I also have. But that is pretty small. And I could see, if you just made sure you had like magazines that you weren't worried about tearing up, I would have no trouble carrying this. Chamber empty though. I would have no trouble carrying this for a little backup, for just a fun gun, for something to talk about, or if this is all you had, it's plenty enough reliable, and I would go for it, if you can find them. And unfortunately, when I put this video up, because I believe there's only about 3 or 4 videos on YouTube of this firearm, they are going to dry up, because someone out there will probably see this and be like, I want that too, and then they'll tell their buddies, and that's how it happens. But when you can find them, if you can find them for about $300-400, hell, I'd even pay $600 for it. I would jump on it, because they are a fun little experience, and they're just well made. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you found this video interesting and learned something, or just liked seeing the gun. Thank you.